All right, YouTube, welcome back to the show. The show is quite entertaining. The circus has continued, but you might be a little bit distracted, or people you know, maybe not you specifically, but apparently, war and civil war is the only thing that's going to get any traction around these places. Um, which leads me to this point. Um, Fed spoke again today, um, based upon some inflation numbers. And me and Guns Coast to Coast been talking about this, and I think all this war talk is just distraction. They're gonna take you to war, but it's just not gonna be. It's 1984. The guidebook is out there. It's just enough war to, hey, we've always been in war in Southeast Asia, Central Asia, Africa, whatever, Eurasia, whatever they come up with, uh, Eastern Europe. Like, all these have always been going on, which is almost practically true. But the inflation and the destruction of your freedom through the destruction of the dollar continues apace, and the Fed is they're playing coy. That is the way to say it. One way. I don't know if the word does that word even hold anything anymore. Does anybody know what that means? Um, they're acting like they don't know. The central bank absolutely knows what they're doing and what's going to happen. I believe. I don't think they don't have an exit strategy. Why they chose this one, I don't really know. But apparently, just um, if when they have if they have to increase interest rates, which I think they have to do, if they're not going to lower them, they if they just stand pat, it's just like everything burns down at once. um, they have to, if their intention is to get inflation under control, they have to raise them at enough pace, high enough to really have an effect, which is probably significantly higher. Peter Schiff has been hammering this for a while now, like 2 years, saying the Fed has to go higher to control inflation. But that really puts a crimp on everything economically. And so if, and it, like we've said, raising the interest rates puts the crunch on small banks. Small banks can't compete with the big guys when the interest rates go up to a certain level. They just can't do enough volume to turn over assets in a way that makes it productive. So the big guys, J.P. Morgan and the like, Citibank, who are the other big guys? Whoever, Wells Fargo, eat up the little guys. And all these Fed people are in those bank boards and in those, but those are their buddies, and that's where they came from. And I don't think you're ever going to see this 2% inflation goal ever. That's just not going to ever happen. Um, so that's what's going on out there. If you aren't paying attention, but I know most of you try to pay attention. Let me see what else. Um, we had some other interest. The bond market, when it says futures drop, basically they're making more expensive. People are dumping them because the Fed's not doing anything. So they have to lure people in by having a higher interest return on the bonds. Um, I don't even. There's no reason to even check the inversion rate because it's insane. Probably. Um, so if you're wondering why gold is holding against the threat of higher interest rates, that makes us go, what is really going on, right? We're throwing money at other countries that we don't have to float the dollar. Basically, that's the only reason you can explain, other than, well, keeping the military industrial complex alive. Um, Throwing all this money at what was it, 98 billion. Southern Prepper One did a good rant on that today. Um, but this is the bigger issue, I think. People, prep appropriately. The transition to central bank digital currency is going to happen in like a twinkling. Alaska Prepper did a good video on this about the transition to CBDC, and we've talked about it in the past. Don't be sidelined by all this other stuff. No, it all feeds into this. No, it all comes back to this. If the dollar was a good economic system, leads to peaceful exchanges, right? Unpeaceful operations are caused usually by bad economic situations. And this is fixing to get really bad, as much as it seems like it's bad now. A lot of things don't make sense. A gold channel, 2is1, did a video about that particular thing about why, because that's all he does, gold, right? Why is gold holding its position with the threat of increasing interest rates, continuing inflation, and not a rate drop not being in the future? Because the theory was a couple of years ago, when the Fed has to drop rates, gold's really going to take off. And gold is taking off in spite of not dropping rates, which means it's something else, right? So he did a good video on that. I'll put the links to all those videos, Southern Prepper 1, Alaska Prepper, 2is1, in the bottom. So you can go check those out for your own edification. And just to see, I'm just not well, maybe I am making it up, but I'm not. Even if you don't get a chance to see them. Higher interest rates for longer is devastating to a large segment of the economy and banks. And it really only foretells that the inflation is going to continue to run high. Speaking of inflation, last tidbit, I just almost forgot about it. The Vienna Sausage Index has ticked up. I don't know when it ticked up. It's been probably a month, maybe even longer. But we're now at 89 cents. 49 cents 2020, 89 cents today for generic Vienna sausages. A small can on the at the supermarket. So that inflation index continues to march up, and that's over 10% in the last couple months. So that's more than 10% in a year. Because 10 cents compared to 79, what is that? What's that percentage wise? 17%? I don't know. It's whatever it is. Do the math. Inflation's crazy. It's out there in everything. Things are getting smaller, like we documented. People are changing how they package things. One thing I've noticed with packaging is people are just going back to cheaper alternatives. You used to see the pop lids on a lot of canned goods to make it convenient for the suburban housewife to open their canned goods. Better get a can opener. Everything's losing those pop tops. I might do a video on it if I can find enough leftovers that still have the pop top on them. But basically, manufacturers are taking those off because canned goods, everything's more expensive. That saves them money. And they're still charging you more. Although I did see a killer deal. So check your Kroger brand, Smith's, chunky soup, different of certain varieties, not every label, but certain ones, 69 cents a can if you buy 5. That's unheard of in the last 3 years that I know of, at least around here. So check your Campbell's Chunky. Look for the certain, I think it was sirloin, vegetable sirloin, chili mac maybe something else, but limited number, but 69 cents for 5 of them. Like that's, they've been going for like $2.50. I think $1.50 was a sale at one time. Like 69 cents a can, like they're just throwing them out the door. Like stock you up. I mean, I would even go so far as to sell some silver if you really needed some canned goods for something like that. That is a just killer deal in this. And if you're in a certain state, you can recycle those cans and get money back. This went a little bit longer than I wanted to, folks. Watch out for the inflation train. It's not slowing down, and the bank is scared to death, or at least acting like they are when they're really not, in my mind, because they know exactly what they're doing. They're just making it look like they don't. So prep hard, live free.